So now questions to our presenters.
Peter Schmitz from the Publications Office from the EU. Just for the first presentation, I hope that I can give you some supplementary information and some hope. So we are publishing the named authority lists that we are using to index our publications online. They are available in XML and SCOS, and they contain all the languages, the language codes with translations. The translations for the EU member states can be considered as official. And the remark, while this disorder, there's something which is called protocol order, which is an agreement between the member states, which we have to respect, which makes the list, from an alphabetical sense, sometimes a bit disordered, but there's something which is an agreement between all the member states, so we have to respect it, and it explains it.
Liao Hanteng, I found some of the things you were saying quite interesting. We have some guidelines at the W3C about how to create selection lists. One of the things that you didn't mention was how to identify that the selection list is a selection list for languages, or for that matter for regions. That's not clear to me that there's a good answer to that. So I just wanted to throw that out to the people in the audience and say, you know, if you have any ideas about how we would address that particular issue. And the issue is, so you have a list of languages, but if you're on a Persian page and that list is in Persian, you know, you have a problem. Even if it's it starts with English or something like that, you may not be able to read that it says English because you're a Persian speaker or whatever. So, yeah, I would just encourage anybody who has any ideas on how to solve that problem and any other aspects related to how to improve selection lists to let us know. And there were one or two things that you said that were quite interesting, actually. So.
As just a follow-up on that, I would throw out a challenge to the community here. What we really need is to follow up on what Hangten Liao said, in terms of allowing a self-completing list, so that if somebody typed in Persian by typing in PERS or typing in the Arabic letters of the equivalent, it would in all cases find that, because there really is no solution, for example, to the European protocol that lists Austria under O, as opposed to, say, the UN's or the ISO standard that lists it under AU. And I would assume that an open source module, which could be plugged in to do that, that could be widely used, would really be the only ultimate answer to avoid the frustration that you pointed out. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kirill Soloviev, a co-founder of a software startup for the translation industry. I just wanted to switch to a slightly different topic and go back to what Rodolfo and Roberto were discussing. So this massive multilingual online terminology database. And I also wanted to throw this question to the guys from Microsoft here today. So Microsoft has a huge terminology database. What are your thoughts actually about linking that with what IATI is about and what project of Roberto and Rodolfo is about? Thank you.
In our glossary links that I mentioned that you can find on term.cord.eu, there is of course also the big Microsoft database. We have it also in an internal terminology portal which is accessible to all EU officials through the ECAS password, internal one. And of course, Microsoft database is one of the main databases we use for IT terminology. And this is why we want to do this meta search tool, because it's impossible that a database like IATE contains in all 110 domains of the European legislation, all the specific terminology of some texts that we have. So it's very important when in IATE, and I think in other organizations, when you get an answer saying no result, that this meta search is then going to look in more specialized databases. And in the terminology portal, but also in this glossary links and the meta search, we shall have three categories of databases. So the institutional ones, you know perhaps that all the international institutions are collaborating in a forum called GIAMCAT, and we are working, we are members of the terminology working group of this, and we are working to connect all these databases together. The second domain is the academic one, because a lot of universities and researchers have produced big and very valuable database. And the third one, very important, is indeed the industry. For example, for the cars, we have the Daimler database, Volkswagen database, there is for sport, the FIFA database. So the world is full of very reliable databases, and this is why we want to connect them. It's impossible to put all this in our individual databases. So thank you for your remark. It is indeed exactly the way we are going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can add something, it's that all these repositories of terminology that are available with the open licenses. So we really, I agree with Rodolfo. We don't have to create a catch-all repository of terms. We need to interconnect them. And this takes me also to Julian's presentation, because the reason why sometimes you can't associate the right entity or the right meaning with an entry, for example, in Europeana, even if you have a lot of words in the bag of words, you have a lot of lexical context, is because you need to exploit the interconnections between the meanings. So Poland there is wrongly selected because probably, I don't know the algorithm, but the interconnections between the various meanings of the words are not exploited at best. And the more interconnections you have, the more glossaries you have interlinked, the more you can work in any domain, in any language. So that, obviously, that's the final objective. But and the nice thing is that we can, in the medium term, provide tools to do this automatically for everybody. Like you input your glossary and you get it linked to the cloud, the linguistic linked open data cloud. So the idea is that then collaboratively everybody will be able to do that.
Thank you. And the last question, Philip.
I have kind of two short questions pertaining to what Fernando said. One is, like, I really wonder, like, about the transfer from PDF to EPUB, because PDF is not an authoring format. You see, like, it's just presentation format. So did you even consider to look into the source files? And you see, like, if you took, I know, InDesign or Word, you would be much better off if you try to basically transfer to EPUB from those source formats rather than from the PDF, because the PDF is not designed to keep logic. It's just a presentation, right? And so I know some people are kind of frustrated that you can't edit PDFs, but PDFs are simply not made for editing, right? So that's one thing. And the other, I really wonder, is JPEG enforced in EPUB? That's more for the room. Like, I think JPEGs are really frustrating. Aren't really PNGs or SVGs allowed in EPUB? So that's...
Yes. No, I totally agree with you on the certainly would be easier, and it's easier to use InDesign to create the EPUBs. But unfortunately, the way we are structured in such a large organization and working in different languages is that the production is totally decentralized. So we, as the central management of the repository, don't have control over the production workflow. And therefore, at the end of the process, there is a PDF. That in our approach is relatively simple. It's easier to send to companies that do a per-page conversion. So I understand and I agree it's not the perfect way, but for us it's the easiest. Regarding JPEGs or PNGs, yes, I mean, I think we are doing both. SVG is part of the standard, but normally, since we are coming from PDF, we don't use vector formats.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fernando. Just, 10 seconds. Take a mic.
The database is already there. The country names, you have Unicode CLDR, they have customary names, and the UN body, they have their own official names. So the database is there. The question is whether the European Union should, provide all this. Think about immigration or visa application. I mean, you definitely have to serve Spanish people from South America or Portuguese from South America, right? So there's a need for that.
Okay, thank you very much.